Hi, I'm Lisa Renee, your Ascension Guide, and today we're here with the Energetic Synthesis panel. We decided to create a panel of discussion on certain topics, and today we'd like to talk about the spirit of discipline and what it means to us on the spiritual path. First, I'd like to introduce you to Joni.
Hi.
And Robyn.
Hi.
And of course Yvonne.
Hello.
And today, in speaking about what discipline means to us on the spiritual path, certainly those of us that have been a part of spiritual ascension, the New Age consciousness, there has been a tremendous amount of distortion around the word and the context of discipline. So we'd like to talk today about the necessity of accessing the spirit of discipline in your spiritual practice, and as well to confront any kinds of negative connotations or negative emotional states that are elicited as triggers when the word discipline is used. For many of us, it's completely obvious that in the third dimensional construct, the social programming and the mind control that we are subjected to on planet Earth, that the use of the word discipline has been synonymous with punishment. So in the spiritual context, when we are recontextualizing the words that we use in application to strengthen ourselves and our inner core in our spiritual practice, discipline is very much required, and yet we have to overcome the negative programming that we have been subjected to when we actually hear or read the word discipline. In a society that is largely organized through patriarchal domination, the tyrant archetype uses discipline in a negative way to enforce punishment and as well to enforce control mechanisms on the public at large. Many of us, since we were children, have been, again, exposed to the word discipline as a punishment through the educational system or the social system, to even connotate that if you're not disciplined, you're a bad being and you need to be punished. So we would like to dispel the delusion around the negative connotation of discipline and discuss why the spirit of discipline is really necessary on the spiritual path, as having discipline and dedication to your spiritual practice is what transcends personal limitations. It challenges us to go beyond our limitations. Things that we thought we could never achieve in our life are achievable when we apply discipline to ourselves. So as we access the inner parent, which is synonymous with talking about our higher spirit, the higher spiritual self acts as the inner parent to discipline the child, which the inner child is our physical body. Just like a parent that is disciplining a child with tough love, letting that child know that every whim, desire, and fancy, and manifesting every desire at one's will is not necessarily positive or good in the character development or spiritual development of the child. So in the same vein today, in understanding discipline and that accessing our inner spirit is very similar to accessing our inner parent or spiritual source will guide us through experiences in our life where discipline is required. And this is a type of tough love, because if we don't learn the lessons of the life experience, of developing our consciousness, we actually can be spiritually stunted, emotionally traumatized, and we cease to develop in the stair step of ascension, which is about accessing higher levels of consciousness and therefore higher levels of frequency, which equate into energetic power. So when the child, the physical being, is given power, how does the child respond? Or does the child react? With discipline, we learn to respond. We learn to choose. We learn to responsibly use or access our personal power. And this is what I'd like to talk today with the ES panel. So in the continuing of this conversation in accessing the word discipline, so what are your thoughts in terms of your relationship to the spirit of discipline?
Right. So to jump into this right off the bat, I challenge everyone who's watching right off the bat, because it's the best way to learn and feel it is in the moment. Right now, when you hear the word discipline, how many of you right now are feeling a little something go off inside and a wall go up? Now, not judgment, because this is what we are talking about. We've all been there or are. So how many of you right this minute, when you hear Lisa say discipline, catch yourself, who's feeling the wall go up? And that's what we're talking about, is how do we recognize that and get past it, and why it's important to do so.
And I felt that wall. I felt resistance when we were having a conversation and discipline came up. And I'm like, I don't like that word. When I hear that, I just feel like, no, I feel like it's a forced word. Mm-hmm. I feel threatened. I feel like somebody's telling me to do something that I don't want to do. I feel like they're even telling me I'm lazy.
Yeah.
So that word, I feel is, and now it's processing it out because we are identifying it, but that it was in my cellular makeup of who I was, and that it was a trigger for me.
I really appreciate your identifying all of those feelings coming up in the moment as that resistance, because that is what we were talking about, and what Lisa was speaking about with the distortions of the word that can make it hard. So to breaking it down, and that's the first step, is noticing what comes up. And the confusion, like, what is discipline? And someone told me getting up early, and that made me lazy. And, for me, I've been working with it more of knowing that it's little steps of pointing my mind into focus. So, we were using the example of meditation when we were speaking about it earlier. That in meditation, even if you're just counting breaths, and it is a discipline.
Yes.
I'm one, I'm here two. I'm counting. I'm present with my breath. Oh, there goes my mind. What number was I on? 1, 2. And it's not necessarily. Actually, it's less boring doing it than talking about it.
Right.
But it's that discipline of keep coming back.
Yeah.
And that's just the greatest example for me. Like a simple method, because as a baseline of working to discipline my mind. That is
right
for me. It's important.
And it's really fascinating to observe that within yourselves, and it's so important to understand that all of us have, like, there's so many words on the ascension path that are littered with barbs, and they just all have hooks. And so when you think of that word discipline, there's so many reasons for it. Like Tomas was mentioning that, his mother was more of a tyrannical type, and she would command discipline and enforce discipline, yet she herself had none. So you grow up saying, okay, I'm being expected to have discipline, yet coming from someone who has none. And others, there's so many different reasons why that word brings up different triggers within us. And so to identify that, but also realizing that even why may not be as important as just feeling it and understanding it's there, and that it can create a block.
Feeling it.
Totally
and that no one
it.
can define it for you.
Absolutely.
And someone saying this is discipline is, like
Totally.
they said, it's more of a tyrannical, and that's part of what comes up.
Yeah.
And when you feel it, that's where the answers are of why you're feeling that resistance, and what is that resistance in me. and understanding, wow, okay, I get it, and was able to track it all the way down to not having patience, and that's another one.
Yes.
So,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then underneath, well, why do I feel impatient? Why do I, why am I having a hard time just being here with me? Usually for me, that'll take me into some uncomfortable feelings.
Right.
And, I feel lonely, or, I feel, it's this. And it's something that then applying the patience and the discipline and even the breathing to just accept that, embrace it, that actually starts shifting it alone. I don't even have to have a solution for it.
Exactly.
And because another cause for the conversation was that so many of us on this path were so anxious to be so much further ahead, because we have been feeling it our whole life. We have known that there was something bigger. And so when we kind of get to that point, we just want to speed up, to step, N. You want to be there, and it's totally understandable. We all totally do. And so you get the discipline, and this, you're like, yeah. I want to be there. I want to know what my purpose is. I want to start doing this. What am I supposed to be doing? And there's so many of us that are, get to that point where we want to the cart before the horse. And we all have been there, or we all are going through that. But you kind of have to do step A, B, and C before we can get, to end. And so it's interesting when that does pop up, and you said that really well earlier when you said, oh, I went to Hawaii and I was really thinking I was going to open up a practice and do HN2. I was ready. And I got there and it's crickets. And you're like, and there's nothing there. What am I supposed to be doing? And that conjured up all of that. And you realized I'm supposed to be doing me, and that's huge. And that's exactly why,
and that
triggers.
Is step A and B
are
doing you.
Totally. And I love that. Triggers are the answer, really. When you're really wondering, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Trigger is, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what needs attention.
It gives you very deep insight into yourself and what your emotional and mental body may still have reaction to. Again, our goal is to respond and to not react, to have the choice in the moment to respond. And that's a part of spiritual maturity. I want to thank you so much for your input on that. And the closing thought with that in accessing discipline is really finding what that word, how to define it for yourself, to not be scared or resistant to the word discipline, to find neutrality with that word and redefine it for yourself. One of the most important markers of spiritual growth is applying yourself, which is another form of discipline, every day to a spiritual practice, whatever that spiritual practice is for you. As we learn to discipline our thoughts and our mind, we become free of mind control. And the only way we can be successful in freeing our mind is with the spirit of discipline. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. Until next, much love to you.